नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथ पुरी धाम की जय। जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13. Dhritarashtra quits home. Text 27. Yah svakat parato veha jata nirveda atmavan hridi kritva harim gehat pravrajet sa narottamaha. Yah svakat parato veha jata nirveda atmavan hridi kritva harim gehat pravrajet sa narottamaha. Yah svakat parato veha jata nirveda atmavan hridi kritva harim gehat pravrajet sa narottamaha. Please chant.
Yah svakat parato veha jata nirveda atmavan hridi kritva harim gehat pravrajet sa narottama.
Yasvakat parato veha jata nirveda atmanvan hridi kritva harim gehat pravrajit sa narottamaha.
Hare Krishna. Yasvakat parato viha jata nirveda atmavan hridi kritva harim gehat pravrajeta narottamaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yasvakat parato viha jata nirveda atmavan hridi kritva harim gehat pravrajeta sa narottamaha.
Anyone else?
Yasvakat parato veha jata nirveda atmavan hridi kritva harim gehat pravrajet sa narottama.
Yeah, try.
Yasvakat
Parato veha
parato veha
jata
jata nirveda atmavan hridi kritva harim gehat
pravrajet.
pravrajet sa narottamaha.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we'll do word to word translation. Yaha, anyone who. Swakat, by his own awakening. Paratahava, or by hearing from another. Iha, here in this world. Jata, becomes. Nirvedaha, indifferent to material attachment. Atmavan, consciousness. Hridi, within the heart. Kritva, having been taken by. Harim, the personality of Godhead. Gehat, from home. Pravrajet, goes away. Saha, he is. Nara Uttamaha, the first class human being. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. He is certainly a first-class man who awakens and understands, either by himself or from others, the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of Godhead residing within his heart. I'll read the translation again. He is certainly a first-class man who awakens and understands, either by himself or from others, the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of Godhead residing within his heart. Purport. There are three classes of transcendentalists, namely, 1, the dhira, or the one who is not disturbed by being away from family association. Dhira, one who is not disturbed by being away from family association. 2, one in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi by frustrated sentiment. One in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi by frustrated sentiment. And 3, a sincere devotee of the Lord who awakens God consciousness by hearing and chanting and leaves home depending completely on the personality of Godhead who resides in his heart. The idea is that the renounced order of life, after a frustrated life of sentiment in the material world, may be the stepping stone on the path of self-realization. But real perfection of the path of liberation is attained when one is practiced to depend fully on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who lives in everyone's heart as Paramatma. One may live in the darkest jungle, alone, out of home, but a steadfast devotee knows very well that he is not alone. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is with him, and he can protect his sincere devotee in any awkward circumstance. One should therefore practice devotional service at home, hearing and chanting the holy name, quality, form, pastimes, entourage, etc., in association with pure devotees. And this practice will help one awaken God consciousness in proportion to one's sincerity of purpose. One who desires material benefit by such devotional activities can never depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who desires material benefit by such devotional activities can never depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although he sits in everyone's heart. Nor does the Lord give any direction to persons who worship him for material gain. Such materialistic devotees may be blessed by the Lord with material benefits, but they cannot reach the stage of the first-class human being as above mentioned. There are many examples of such sincere devotees in the history of the world, especially in India, and they are our guides on the path of self-realization. Mahatma Vidura is one such great devotee of the Lord, and we should all try to follow in his lotus footsteps for self-realization. Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining this morning. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Text 27. Yaha swakat parato veha jata nirveda atmavan hridi kritva harim gehat pravrajet sa narottamaha. Yaha swakat. Yaha swakat means anyone by his own endeavor. Parataha means by others' inspiration. Va means or. So either on his own, by his own endeavor, or by others' inspiration. Iha, in this world, jata nirveda. Jata nirveda means he becomes indifferent to material attachment. In other words, he gets detachment from this world. Or by his endeavor or by inspiration from others, he develops detachment from this world. That's one point. And the other point is Atmavan Hridi Kritva. Atmavan Hridi Kritva. He will Hridim Kritva Harim. That means he becomes dependent on Hari, on the Supreme Lord. So first thing is he gains detachment from this world. And the second thing is his consciousness is taken by Hari, or in other words, he becomes Krishna conscious, or he depends on Krishna. So he becomes detached from this world and he becomes attached to Krishna, either by his own endeavor or by the instructions of others. Anyone who is able to do this, anyone who is able to give up his attachment to this world and completely depend on the mercy of Krishna, such a person is called a first class man. He's called a first class man. So these are the instructions given by Mahatma Vidura to Dhritarashtra Maharaj. So in the previous few verses we saw Dhritarashtra Maharaj was reminded by Mahatma Vidura of his pathetic condition. Although he is at the fag end of his life, we saw how, his body is falling apart literally. But still he is clinging on to life. That desire to go on is there. But Vidura is telling Dhritarashtra that even though you desire to hold on, it's not going to stay with you. It's not going to stay with you. When that time will come imperceptibly and will take away your life. So you should give this home, give up this family life and go to the forest. So yesterday's verse was that text 26 was, he is called undisturbed who goes to an unknown remote place and freed from all obligations, quits his material body when it has become useless. Yes. So such a person, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this verse, today's verse, comparing these two verses. So text 26 is saying that he's a wise man who gives up his body in an unknown place, in a remote place, freed from all obligations. He quits his body when it becomes useless. And the next verse, text 27, is saying he is a first-class man who awakens his understanding, that this material world, attachment to this material world is useless, right? This material world is temporary. And working for material assets in this world is a waste of time. He awakens this understanding and he takes complete shelter of the Supreme Lord. Such a person is called a first-class man or the best of men. So you see the difference between a sannyasi is a wise man. The austere sannyasi is a wise man, and the person who understands bhakti is the best of men. He's the best of men. So then, Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purport, there are three classes of transcendentalists. One is called a dhira, another one who has become a sannyasi out of frustration. Yes, he has also developed detachment from this world because he's frustrated. After going through a lot, he sees how this world, all his endeavors are futile. And out of frustration, he wants to give up this world and he becomes a sannyasi. So that is one category. And who is a dhira? Dhira means he does not become disturbed. Actually, in both ways it is explained. In one way it is explained here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying, dhira means a person who is not disturbed by being away from family association. That means he's given up his family association, he's away from family, and he's not disturbed. He's not hankering for them. He's fine, even staying away from them. In another sense, it is explained, dhira is, even though he is in the presence of, even though there is the source of, sense enjoyment, it's there right in front of him, still he doesn't get disturbed. In this context, Lord Shiva's example is given. Even though Parvati Devi was right there in front of him, and she was even touching him, still he was not disturbed in the least. He was completely fixed in meditation on the Supreme Lord. So this is a dhira. So either way, one who is not disturbed when there is no sense gratification, he's not hankering for it, for material life, material enjoyment, or even when it is present, he's still not disturbed. He's not disturbed, he's not attracted towards that. So that's one category of transcendentalist, a dhira. Second category is a sannyasi. Out of frustration, he has given up this world. And the third category is by practicing Krishna consciousness, like hearing, chanting, worshipping the Lord, one has awakened his God consciousness. And after awakening his God consciousness, he leaves home depending completely on the personality of Godhead, who is residing in his heart. So actually, this is Vaishnav Sannyas. This is Vaishnav Sannyas. Vaishnav Sannyas is you give up family life for a higher purpose. We were reading Leelamrita lately. We read Leelamrita every day, Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. And lately we are reading the section where Srila Prabhupada actually gives up his family. So Srila Prabhupada wanted his family members also to take to Krishna consciousness. And it was not that he was trying to run away from his responsibility towards his family. he had an opportunity to give up his family and join his spiritual master even when he was a young, newly married person. But he was a responsible man. He felt that, no, I have dependents on me. It is my responsibility to take care of them. So he stayed with the family. He was working. And while working, he was also assisting the Gaudiya Math, his god brothers. He was helping them in, starting temples, and he was the contacts that he had because of his social position, the contacts that he had with influential people, he would connect them with the devotees, and in that way help in establishing new centers in Bombay, in Allahabad. Srila Prabhupada played a key role, and simultaneously he was working. He had his business and he was raising a family. It was an extended family. His nephews, and he had servants, and his immediate family, his father. He was maintaining everyone. But at the same time, he was cultivating Krishna consciousness. Of course, Srila Prabhupada is Acharya, but Acharya comes to set an example. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Still, he walked the path to set an example for us. How, while living in this Grihastha ashram, you can still perfect your life. So we find both instructions. Also, we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam 7th Canto 15th chapter. There, the chapter is entitled Instructions for the Civilized Human Being. So there are instructions given for human beings when they are in the Grihastha ashram, how they should be performing sacrifices, and they should not be envious to other living entities. That means you should not be offering meat, etc. in sacrifice. Simply depend on the natural ingredients that are provided by nature. Use them in sacrifice, like that. But important, so the point is how you can prepare. So the goal is to become Krishna conscious. And in order to become Krishna conscious, the preparation has to start from the beginning of life. First, there is Brahmachari ashram, and then there is Grihastha ashram. So now in today's situation, majority of the people are in the Grihastha ashram. Yes? In the Grihastha ashram or Grihamedi, whatever. We are in a family household situation. So how do we prepare our lives? Ultimately, there it is said that you should give up your family. One verse says, I believe it is 15:22, maybe around that. So in one shloka says that household life is actually an obstacle. Family life is an obstacle to progress in Krishna consciousness. Anyone who wants to control his mind, he should give up such family life. And then he should go to a secluded place, preferably to a holy place, and then there, sit on an asana and you chant the Omkara. And then by this, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, by all this, finally, you will come to the stage of controlling your mind. So, the point is detachment from material world is essential. It is essential. We should understand that, see, it's like, this is my goal and I'm here. So I should understand that I need to get here and I'm here, and how I can move forward to get to my goal. That should be the point. Not that I'm here and it's okay. I can stay here and still I can get the ultimate result. It's not like that. We must get there. What is this point? What is the goal? The goal is become detached from this world and develop that attachment to Krishna. gain that dependence on Krishna. And how can we see if I have actually attained that state of attachment to Krishna? Srila Prabhupada is saying in this purport that a steadfast devotee knows very well that he is not alone. Even if he is in the forest, in a dark forest, he is all by himself, he will not experience fear. He will be completely confident that I am not alone, I am with Krishna. So how many of us have that confidence? Wherever I may be thrown in a lonely place, in a forest, there's no, there may be wild animals, there may be snakes and scorpions, whatever, and it's pitch dark and I'm thrown there, and still I feel fully confident that Krishna is with me. That is the confidence. So when we have dependence on Krishna, then automatically we become fearless. A symptom of surrender, so they're all related. So first thing is you need full faith in order to render pure unalloyed devotional service. We need full faith. And what is a symptom of full faith? Symptom of full faith is Shraddha, is surrender. You surrender to the Supreme Lord. What does it mean? What is the symptom of surrender then? Surrender, one who has surrendered to the Supreme Lord, he becomes fearless. And one who has not surrendered to the Supreme Lord, he is always fearful. That's all. This is the conclusion of the scripture. Anyone who has surrendered to the Supreme Lord becomes fearless. Under all circumstances, he is fearless. And one who has not surrendered to the Supreme Lord, he experiences fear on every level, actually. So we want to come to that stage of being fearless on account of Krishna's protection, not because I am so great and I am so, therefore I am fearless. No, because of that confidence in Krishna. I have surrendered my life to Krishna. I belong to Krishna. Now I am Krishna's property. He can do with me whatever he likes. So surrender also, we have different stages in surrender. So complete dependence on Krishna. Whatever he does, that is fine. So that is the how to get there. That is the point now. So we are all in Grihastha Ashram. So I was listening to a lecture by His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj. Maharaj says two questions. First is how we should live in the Grihastha Ashram. And the second question is how we should get out of the Grihastha Ashram. So both things are important. So how do we live in the Grihastha Ashram? There are so many attractions, right? Sense gratification. So I mean, theoretically, we understand that we should not engage in sense gratification, but Maya is so strong that Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Janiya Shuniya Vishakhainu. I know this should not be done. I know this is not good for me. Still, I do it. Knowingly, I'm taking poison. So again, in the seventh canto 15 chapter, the solution is given by Narad Muni. How you can overcome. First of all, you have to analyze what are the problems that we face on a day-to-day basis. Do we suffer from lust? Do we suffer from anger? Do we suffer from envy? If these are the problems that we are facing on a day-to-day basis, how to overcome them? So systematically, Narad Muni is giving, if you want to overcome lust for sense enjoyment, then what should you do? So Narad Muni says, then for that, you have to plan with determination. You should understand. So basically, intelligently, you should actually be determined. I don't want to give in to lust. And then how do you overcome anger? You can overcome anger by giving up envy. Interesting, isn't it? By giving up envy, you can overcome anger. And how do you overcome greed? This is another problem. In Grihastha ashram, we are always working for economic development. There it is said that even if you are a poor person, you should never endeavor for economic development. You should never endeavor for economic development. You should be satisfied with what has been given to you. It's really extreme. Don't endeavor for economic development even to maintain your body and soul together. Again, that will come when there is dependence on the Supreme Lord. It cannot be outside of Krishna consciousness. This type of renunciation is only possible in devotional service. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sannyasastu mahabaho dukkham aptum ayogataha. Right? You may take to the renounced order. Why do you take to renounced order of life? Because you're frustrated with material life. But after taking to renunciation, if you don't connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you will experience frustration with spiritual life also. And that's why people again come back to material life. Yes? Bhoga tyaga. Sometimes tyaga, we give up because we are tired of this bhoga. We want to experience, we want to enjoy renunciation. And then after renouncing for some time or too much austerity, now go back to bhoga. Bhoga tyaga, like a pendulum, we are going back and forth oscillating between bhoga and tyaga. So if we really want that renunciation to be fruitful, even that's why Prabhupada is saying that renunciation out of frustration may be a stepping stone. It may be a stepping stone for spiritual progress. But from there, you have to connect with the Supreme. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya, nacha ayuktasya bhavana. So until and unless you are connected with Krishna or connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness, there is no question of having a steady intelligence, or there's no question of having satisfaction. And ultimately, there's no question of being happy. So renunciation is essential because, so in the case of, so I started off with Srila Prabhupada's life. So Srila Prabhupada, he went to Jhansi. He started his League of Devotees. And there, everything was going nicely. Like people were interested, many people were coming. Srila Prabhupada got that building. He could actually stay there. But it was not still in the name of, it was not given to him. He was allowed to stay there and do his programs. And Srila Prabhupada spent whatever savings he had in, the opening ceremony, that he organized. Practically from morning until evening, there was kirtan, there was prasadam distribution. So many people were invited. He spent everything that he had on that program. And Srila Prabhupada actually put advertisements that this is a training place. Anyone, we are inviting young men to come and join to be trained so that they can become preachers of Bhagavad Gita. They can go all over the world and preach Bhagavad Gita for practical purposes to solve the problems of life. Like this, Srila Prabhupada put advertisements. So he was actually really starting the Hare Krishna movement, ISKCON movement there in Jhansi. But that building was not even in his name. So Srila Prabhupada then said, he wanted them to actually transfer it in the name. And then they said, now when they saw there's so much, that's how it works in this world. When nobody had any value for that, people didn't even care. It was just there sitting like that. But now there's so much activity happening. There's so much attraction for that place. So many people are coming. The value goes up. So the person said, if you want to register in the name of the League of Devotees, you'll have to pay 500 rupees. So 500 rupees was a lot in those days. And Srila Prabhupada didn't even have 500 rupees. And all the people that he was preaching to, they were all just some, students, and, they didn't have big income. So they were not able to support him financially, although they would come and listen to his classes, they would go on his programs, they would go on Padayatra, right? They would travel to other villages walking, doing Sankirtan and conducting home programs like that. But financially, they were not able, they didn't have that type of money to support, not even 500 rupees. Can you imagine? And then soon after that, this person says, actually, you can just buy it. Now forget about registration. You can take it from me for 5,000 rupees. Prabhupada didn't have 500 rupees. From where he will have 5,000 rupees? And around that time, he gets a letter from his servant that he was still maintaining his family, by the way. He was living in Jhansi, but Srila Prabhupada was still maintaining his family by running his business. He had this pharmaceutical laboratory. So he would manufacture medicines and supply them. So he had that at this time in Lucknow. And he was here in Jhansi. His servant was there. But the servants, they burglarized. They just stole everything. And then they sent a letter saying that everything which is of value has been stolen. Nothing is there. And when Srila Prabhupada read that letter, he just laughed. He just laughed and he chanted that verse, famous verse from the 10th canto, that when Krishna is exceptionally merciful on some devotee, he takes everything away from him. So that whatever attachments, little attachments he may have in this world, they will all those ties will be cut. So he didn't go. He thought it's okay. And then when this thing happened with this building, the 5,000 rupees, Srila Prabhupada, for that he wanted to work. He didn't bother about going back and working now. The thing is, his family was also not at all favorable. Whenever Srila Prabhupada would visit home, all the neighboring people would come to sit with him. And he would tell them about Bhagavad Gita. And they would be very much enchanted. They would be sitting and listening to him. But his family members would be upstairs in a room somewhere. They wouldn't come to sit in the class. And they would be drinking tea. So there was like open opposition. They didn't care about what he was doing. So Srila Prabhupada felt that I can go there, I can go back to my family and work for them. Now, the business has failed. His son even came to him, his youngest son, Vrindavan Chandra. He came to Srila Prabhupada to ask him for help. Please come and do something. And Srila Prabhupada said, you see, this was Srila Prabhupada's calculation, that they are not devotees and they have no interest in taking to devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada had so much work to do here, which would actually influence the whole world. It would save so many people from going to hell. And for one family, if he gave up this job and this service and he went back to maintain them, at least if they were devotees, then he would be doing some service. But they were not even interested in devotional service. So what is the whole point? So Srila Prabhupada told his son, you also stay with me here. You can help me with, with my writing books, etc. His son was not, he didn't have that type of shraddha. So he just went back. He didn't stay. But when Srila Prabhupada needed 5,000 rupees for this Radha Smarak, Radha Memorial, or it's called the Bharati Bhavan, the League of Devotees building, then Srila Prabhupada thought, I only know one business, the business that he did, throughout his Grihastha Ashram, the pharmaceutical business. So let me just go and do the same thing and earn money, because I don't see any scope of getting any donations to get this building. And this building is essential for me to have a headquarters from where I can actually spread this Krishna consciousness. So then Srila Prabhupada came back home thinking that now he will do some business. With that money, he will buy that building. And it was at that time when once again he was at home and his family was somewhere, they were not coming down he was giving classes, they were not coming. This happened all the time. And then Srila Prabhupada had his Srimad Bhagavatam, and his wife bartered it, or I don't know, maybe she sold it, and then with the money, she bought some tea biscuits. She didn't understand the value of the Srimad Bhagavatam. When Srila Prabhupada couldn't find it, he was shocked. He asked his wife, what happened to my Bhagavatam? She said, I sold it. So Srila Prabhupada finally asked, do you want tea or do you want me? You have to decide between the two of us now. And she was just joking, but in a joking, light way, she said, I want tea. But that really, it was like the last thing for Srila Prabhupada to make a decision. He said, yes, I'm done with this family now. And Srila Prabhupada left home. But his family didn't take it seriously. Neither did the neighbors take it seriously. Because Srila Prabhupada was always leaving home, right? It's been for years he was doing that. He was going and he was coming. He had his business in Allahabad, in Lucknow. He would come and go. And even for his preaching purposes, now when he's in Jhansi, he's living like a Vanaprastha. He's coming and going. So this time when he went, in his heart, Srila Prabhupada was resolute that I'm leaving for good. But his family was thinking, he'll come back again after some time. They didn't take it seriously. The neighbors also were saying, there he goes again. But Srila Prabhupada, he didn't even feel like going back to Jhansi. Just imagine, such frustration. Not frustration, but he wanted that building. He was not able to. Now he's done with his family, his business, all that is finished now. No more going back to work now. So where do I start from? So then he decided he will go to, there is one mutt ashram. It's called Jhargram, near Calcutta, a few hours from Calcutta. So he went there. He had some god brothers. One of the god brothers had seen Srila Prabhupada when Srila Prabhupada met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur for the first time. So they told him, please come, you can stay with us. And then he tells us, all of us later, that Maharaj says that when he came, he looked so poor and he was starving. He didn't eat anything for, maybe days. And he looked very poor. But there was one thing, practically 24 hours, he was simply chanting Hare Krishna. He didn't do anything else. He was just chanting Hare Krishna constantly. So in this way, he stayed there for a few days. And then once again, he got the determination. He said, no, I must go back to Jhansi. I must do something. And from there again, he goes to Jhansi. So why I was saying this whole thing about renunciation. You see, renunciation out of frustration is one thing. But renunciation for the sake of service to Krishna, that somebody who does that, that is the best thing. That's the goal of life. If somebody is able to do that, he's the best of all men, says Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And Srila Prabhupada himself is saying, Mahatma Vidura is one such great devotee of the Lord. He has renounced this world. And even he has come back. He didn't come back because, not bhoga tyaga. Now let me come back and relax a little bit. No. He came. Also, there's another important point. Grihasthas, for them, this type of determination doesn't come easily, Therefore, they need the association of sadhus, the renunciates. I remember some years before, there was always sannyasis traveling, coming to temples throughout the year. And that would really keep the atmosphere quite spiritually enlivened. Either the sannyasis would come or traveling brahmacharis would come because they're traveling, doing book distribution. They stop at temples. So they give the morning Bhagavatam class, take some prasadam, and then they go. But that was so, it would recharge the spiritual batteries of all the grihasthas in that temple. So therefore, sadhus are traveling to inspire grihasthas to in the mode of renunciation. Renunciation for what? Not because this world is hopeless. Yes, it is. But even more important is to reconnect with Krishna. So sometimes we think that, oh, it's okay. Krishna consciousness can be practiced in Grihastha ashram also. It is true. Bhakti is so powerful that even in Grihastha ashram you can get perfection. But what type of a Grihastha? A Grihastha who is engaging in these activities constantly. He's practicing devotional service at home, hearing, chanting the holy names, the qualities, worshipping the form of the Lord, hearing about the glories of the form of the Lord, pastimes, his entourage. And he does that in the association of pure devotees. Who are pure devotees? Of course, pure devotees, it's not that pure devotees are only sannyasis or grihasthas. Pure devotee means somebody who's engaged in Krishna consciousness 24/7. So in such association, when grihasthas are hearing, chanting, rendering devotional service, this is practice, this is a preparation. And finally, when that time comes, we should be able to, if we are summoned for that service, we should be prepared to leave and go, take up the higher responsibility. So that is the life of a servant. That is the life of a devotee. Our life is meant to be used by our Guru Parampara in the service of Krishna. But for them to pick us, we should be qualified first, right? We should keep ourselves fit in Krishna consciousness so that they can actually, select us. When there's a war or something, they recruit. So they'll see who are the qualified men that can be trained properly for a particular task. So we should keep ourselves fit in Krishna consciousness. Because time flies, you see. We were already reading about old age last Saturday. So before we know, old age and then death. So like that. So I will end here. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, discussions, comments, you're welcome.
If anybody has questions, please just unmute yourself and go ahead. Yesterday, there was a long discussion, and I think the point is, and what I learned between yesterday and today is how every single word in Srila Prabhupada's purports have to be, every sentence has to be read so carefully and so, and how some senior devotees read them so carefully. I read and I sort of skim through, or and the question was, so what is the recommendation in ISKCON, to take sannyas or to not take sannyas? And in general, I think what we are reading is renunciation means even while I am in Grihastha ashram, I take devotional service seriously and I do that seriously. I don't have to wear a saffron robe to do devotional service. That is the gist of it. But in yesterday's purport, one sentence clearly said, in this circumstance, it is best you take. And I think if we are not able to, if in today's purport says, if you're frustrated, then, because some people take sannyas because they're frustrated with, so in that case, my question is, and this is, I think, sometimes the excuse we use to get ourselves out. I took vows when I got married that I would take care of the family or whatever. Do I keep using that as an excuse to get myself out, or how do I manage the two?
Yeah, a couple of points here, Mataji. First thing is, sannyas is a state of consciousness. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Sannyas is not just about wearing saffron robes or leaving home. Sannyas is giving up the desire to enjoy the results of my work. That is a real sannyas. And there Srila Prabhupada even tells us someone who is a grihastha and who is in that mood, in that consciousness of not enjoying the fruits. He's not working so that he can enjoy the fruits, whatever service or whatever he's doing. If he's in that mood, then he's called a grihastha sannyasi. So that's what we should be aspiring for. But having said that, it doesn't mean that you should not actually take sannyas. It's not that you should, because that also has its benefits, its advantages. We need sannyasis in the society, don't you think? If all people felt that, yeah, it's fine to be grihastha and everybody simply remained a grihastha, if there were no sannyasis in the movement, what would it look like in Rath Yatras? I don't know, just from my experience, I feel enlivened when there is 1, 2, 3, 4, what to speak of 15 sannyasis in one Rath Yatra. I don't know, I feel very enlivened. So that is also required. But at the same time, there is adhikar who is able to do that, who has that qualification to do that. So the point is, first we have to get the qualification, because it is a great service. For someone to take to sannyas, he can do so much more. Prabhupada also said, for grihasthas, it is not, I mean, Prabhupada said different things, on different occasions, but this is in one lecture. Srila Prabhupada said that from grihasthas, it is not really expected, it's not demanded that they must do large-scale preaching. If you preach to your family members, your neighbors, your community members here and there, you'll still be considered good. But for a sannyasi, you are actually expected to do a large-scale preaching, have an impact on the society at large. That a sannyasi can do, a renunciate can do that. So we need them also. So that means some people who are qualified for that must take to sannyas also. That is also required. For grihasthas, we don't have to really, preach that you should remain grihastha. That they will do anyway. Few people will be able to actually take to sannyas and keep their vows. So that must be encouraged. It must be encouraged. Now coming to personal, yes, I have taken vows for grihastha ashram. So there is, different grades of dharma. So there is dharma shastra, that is one thing. And then there is bhakti shastra. So again, based on your adhikar, if you don't have enough shraddha, enough faith, what is shraddha? Shraddha means only Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone else is a servant. If I simply render devotional service to Krishna, I can get the highest possible result. I don't have to do anything else. This is called shraddha. Shastrartha Vishwasaha means having shraddha in the conclusion of the scripture. Conclusion of the scripture is service to Krishna, devotional service to Krishna is the highest activity. So anyone who has this type of shraddha, he can give up all other dharmas. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Krishna assures you, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Don't worry. So now, do I have that shraddha? Can I give up these dharmas and do that? And if I go there, can I do full justice there? Or will I feel like I'm shaky, I'm not able to stand there and I'll fall down? So that we have to see. So now how do you gauge how much shraddha I have? Do I have shraddha or not? Okay. So a symptom of shraddha is when you get that type of shraddha, you will be constantly hankering and endeavoring for devotional service at every moment. Either hearing, chanting, doing something. Physically, you may not be in a position to do, but your endeavor is always in that direction. You want to do it. Just like somebody who's bedridden, right? Maybe he had an accident or something. He's not able to go to the temple and do deity worship, but he's always looking forward to that. He's waiting for that opportunity. So if you are in that, if you're experiencing that in you at all times, you're hankering for that. We see in the lives of our acharyas, right? Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, Vrindavan Das Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, he's always meditating on that instruction given by his spiritual master and how I can give this Krishna consciousness, how I can preach. Even though he didn't have money, he was facing so many obstacles. from family, financially, but still he never stopped. He was not able to publish his work, but he would still keep writing. In his pharmacy, he would have these small papers. He couldn't buy paper because the British government was not releasing paper. They said this paper is for newspapers. Now the world war is going on. We need this paper. We cannot give for spiritual purposes. We don't have enough paper. Then Srila Prabhupada, because they were not giving him paper, he would just write with whatever he had. He was not able to publish, but he never stopped writing. So that is called Shraddha. When you have that Shraddha, you'll be always endeavoring. So if you see yourself in that position, you can give up this dharma and go there. But if you don't see that, then you do this dharma, and while doing this dharma, you cultivate that. Don't give that up altogether. You do this dharma, but you understand my goal is here. I need to reach there. I'm not there. I'm being honest with myself. I'm not there yet, but I want to go there. So step by step, let me move there, right? So if I'm doing 1 hour every day, let me increase it a little bit more, 1.5 hours, 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, like that. Increase. So this is what Srila Prabhupada is saying, practice. When we are in the Grihastha ashram, we should practice Krishna consciousness. And by that, we will awaken our God consciousness someday. Like that, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful.
Somebody else?
Wonderful class. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
a lot of things we have to think when you are in Grihasthashram. And not everybody will cooperate. Is it right? And our dharma actually was how we raised and born and brought up, from old age to whatever
Yeah,
things we listen to.
you have those impressions. Yes.
We have those impressions. It's very hard to balance both of them.
Yeah.
It's very hard. And as a Prabhu, Acharya, I can say that Srila Prabhupada took a very strong step, which is it possible for a Grihastha lady, Mataji? See, you said Mataji, and then you have kids, you have husband, other family, and you need to take care for a while.
Yes,
We
Mataji.
cannot run away from that. Not run away, because we cannot go out like, Dhritarashtra,
No, Mataji.
Mahatma Vidura was saying for Dhritarashtra, go out. They can't depend. But these things, these are all the things, it's a lot of questions for me. I don't
No,
know.
Mataji, just now, as I told Shobha Radhe Mataji, we should cultivate that mode of renunciation by detaching ourselves from the result. So that sannyas has to be cultivated in the consciousness. You don't have to give up your job and your responsibilities externally. When internally that sannyas comes, external will go away automatically. The windows and doors will open, like they happen for Srila Prabhupada. But the important thing is, first we have to develop that qualification, and that nobody can stop. It is a state of our consciousness. Just like when there is a very delicious, let's say, gulab jamun in front of me, a bowl of gulab jamuns, who will force me to eat it? It's really up to me whether I want to enjoy it or I want to honor it as Krishna Prasadam. So like this, little by little, we have to develop that sense of renunciation in the heart. While we are still in the Grihastha ashram, we have to practice. That giving up, that is the last step. That will happen when we are prepared internally. So let's prepare internally first. That's the thing, in the consciousness.
My question is, last step also, giving up. There will be a lot of things surrounded by, you may not, sometimes, it may not be possible to live alone.
That
What
means
is
we
that?
don't have that
Then
Shraddha yet.
No. I have Krishna. I say Krishna is with me. I always think, because in my bedroom, I always think that, oh, you are here. First I felt, how can I stay alone? But then I developed that because Krishna is next to me.
Yeah.
He is there. I can see morning and evening. Whenever I get up in the night, I see him. That is there. But still, how is it is coming a question for me. I am in the, not like all of you, I am at the end of my lifetime. So I want to think like that. Where will I go?
Yeah.
How will I leave this bandhan?
That will come, Mataji, by following this process that Prabhupada is saying. Chanting, hearing in the association of pure devotees, we keep, because that has to be, that Purna Shraddha will develop in the association of pure devotees by hearing Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, which you're doing already. But we'll have to be patient, right?
Which I'm doing already, and
Yeah.
I'm listening to Mahatma Vidura's instructions. I'm listening today's, and I know what is that. But how will I implement that?
How will you implement that? By meditating that, you know, all these things around me are going to be taken away. That, you know,
That's
the
true.
only person that's going to be remaining with you is Krishna. So by meditating on that and simultaneously hearing and associating with devotees and praying to Krishna.
That's all. I'm praying Krishna. When will that day come?
Yes.
I'm waiting patiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you very much. Nice class. As usual.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So we will end the class here. Anyone has any other comments or questions? Okay, so we will end the class here. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Drona
Just
sir.
one quick announcement. Thank you, Mother Arcanabhakti. Wonderful class, and so many wonderful things for us to think about. The wisdom we get on these morning classes are really valuable to apply to our life. I wanted to just announce and invite everyone today. We have our first annual Holistic Health Fair at the temple. This is open for everybody, both devotees and the outside local neighborhood community. So we'll have, demonstrations and displays in many ways. A lot of devotees are doing different health screenings and giving advice for people. Yoga classes, mantra meditation classes, cooking demonstrations. So many things are there, giveaways. So please stop by today if you can, between 11 and 3 p.m. 11 a.m. it starts. And then also tomorrow is the first day of Kartik. So wonderful, it begins the holy month for us here on the Vaishnav calendar. At the Sunday feast, we'll be, singing the Damodarastika prayers and offering the ghee lamps. I definitely miss you, Mother Arcanabhakti, during this time, because you used to make these beautiful diyas for everybody to offer to the Lord. And we'll also, let's see what Krishna arranges. Thank you for that. But then we're also celebrating Dussehra tomorrow as well, because it got rained out previously. So the killing of Ravana will be done after at 6:45 tomorrow. So a lot going on this weekend. We hope to see you for everything. And tomorrow we'll continue with our Srimad Bhagavatam class at the same time. Mother Arcanabhakti, thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Granthiraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai. Shakri Patundu Vishna Titanam Bhavanyo Vishnaveyo Namo Namaha.